Now, we have Gray Barker in Clarksburg, West Virginia. Gray Barker is the man that wrote the book, They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers. And Jackie Gleason, I don't know whether he read the book, at least he...
Yes, I did.
Well, you're acquainted with. Well, Jackie, supposing that you talk now, Jackie Gleason is not in the studio, he's at his home, and supposing that you talk with Gray Barker for a few minutes about that trip that they were supposed to make last week. Jackie, it's yours with Gray Barker.
Well, first, Gray, I'd like to say that I read the book, They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers.
Well, thanks.
I was intrigued by the three men in black who called on Mr. Bender.
And I would rather talk to you. I didn't suppose we may, but I saw a great television show last Sunday, and I saw a little segment of it in which a great electricity lit up the air, and made me want to see very much a show called Take Me Along, and if we make this saucer trip, Mr. Gleason, I do hope that you're along.
Well?
You've been conned, Jackie.
No.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't
Ray,
think I was playing.
I certainly appreciate your compliment, and I hope it's sincere. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure it is.
It is very sincere.
Now, I'd like to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind.
And I've got to get into just one point. Gray Barker, you'll have to get a little closer to your phone or raise your voice. Gleason is coming in very clear and strong, but your voice is a little weak. Please do that, and then go ahead. Jackie, ask your question.
Gray, what kind of education have you had?
Well, Mr. Gleason, I was educated in a one-room schoolhouse through the 8th grade, then high school, and in Glenville State College, where I had a degree, a Bachelor of Arts degree, and a degree in education. In fact, I taught school for a while.
You were a teacher?
Yes, sir.
Now, what has been your experience as far as journalism is concerned?
Well, not a great lot, besides a college paper and a bit of weekly newspapers, those in the country which come out once a week. But then, of course, my own little, more or less amateur publication, the Saucerian Bulletin, which I try to get out now and then.
How about, what is isn't your business booking motion pictures?
Yes, that is my business. Although lately, I have been doing some publishing of flying saucer books, including Howard Menger's. But of course, I'm still more interested in theater booking because that's actually how I make the most of my living.
Well, Gray, obviously to you, what I'm trying to get at is a picture of your education. Now, you're a college graduate. You make your living from a business, show business, which is an astute business.
It sure is nowadays.
Doesn't permit anyone to make money from it that isn't aware of the mores of society and everyday news and intelligence. Also, you say you're a school teacher, which I know carries it with the distinction of being a school teacher, dignity and honesty. And you are a publisher of books. Now, will you please tell me, Greg, how a man with this background, this integrity, and this honesty can send Long John a letter sincerely and really saying that you expect a flying saucer to pick you up. Now, this information that the saucer was going to pick you up was given to you by two people who you have never met. One, a doctor, who, from what I understand from your conversation, might not be a doctor at all, or if he is a doctor, a very misty one, because we don't know what his doctorate is in.
I think John put it as Doctor of Divine Chiropractic, or something like that.
Well, did John know about it? Or,
no, I think he was kidding.
Oh. Well,
I'll answer that question, gentlemen, by saying I do not know what the gentleman's doctorate is in.
Neither do I.
Well, you don't know that guy anyway, the doctor, right, Greg?
No, only through correspondence.
How about Carl?
Only through correspondence and a call, but I believe that my letter to John merely outlined what these two gentlemen had told me, And I believe, I don't have a copy of it here, but in that letter I expressed that I was skeptical about it.
No.
But
no,
was nevertheless giving it a chance. I was waiting here just in case that they would stop, and I would be glad to go along, although
Well, I think if John had that letter, we would find out that it wasn't skepticism, but you did have a few humorous remarks in the letter, but not humorous enough to make anyone believe that you didn't believe that this saucer was going to pick you up.
Well, after all,
Can you seriously sit there down in, what town is that?
West Virginia, Clarksburg, West Virginia.
Clarksburg, West Virginia, and really believe that a man is going to come and pick you up in a flying saucer because two people who you don't know told you this?
Well, now
with your education.
Let me level with you, Mr. Gleason. When I got the invitation, I was skeptical. I thought, no saucer is going to pick me up. But I accepted the invitation, but still in the back of my mind was that idea, what if they did? And I sat there hoping that this wouldn't happen, because, quite honestly, I'm not sure that I wouldn't be a bit scared if one did pick me up. I'm not sure that
Why would you be scared of a flying saucer if you're not scared of Howard Menzies?
Well,
I would be frightened of him.
Well, of course.
Flying saucer, I'd let come right into my living room. But Howard Menzies, I wouldn't let come into the lobby.
Well, as far as the flying saucers go, as far as what we've heard of them is concerned, we don't actually know what they are. I think that you would agree with me on one point, that there are such things seen. And you might go so far as to agree that we're not sure just what they are.
Well, I think you'd agree with me, Gray, that the mysterious way they have of contacting us, why they would pick Howard Menzies, a sign painter in Jersey, to impart their presence or knowledge or intelligence to, and ask him to keep it quiet, not to tell anyone. And the great coincidence that he should marry a girl who had a Saturnian lover, and don't all these things seem to you to be dripping with fraud?
Well, as far as Howard Menzies is concerned, first of all, in the Saturnian lover bit, we'll have to admit one thing, that it did make a very nice plot. Of course, Howard Menzies fits into all of these contactee stories.
Why?
Because he has met people...
because he's had the goal. Because he has the goal to barefacedly say that he has met these people. That's the only reason.
A great many people, including Adamski and Truman Bethlehem, etc., have said they met people from outer space. Now, I'm skeptical, even though I may publish their books, but I can't say for certain. I can believe, in the back of my mind, well, they didn't, but I can't be certain that they didn't.
But as a publisher, you present these books, and you put a cover on them, and you give flyleaf information to the effect that you, as a publisher, do give credence to what these people are saying in the book.
I don't believe that I did on the...
Well, you might. How would you sell the book if you didn't?
Of course, publishing a book maybe does give some idea.
Well, I don't object to you publishing a book. What I do object to is the publisher of a book giving credence to what is contained in the book.
Well, I don't believe, Mr. Gleason, that I have...
I wish you'd call me Jackie.
Well, if I may, I'd be very glad to.
Why not? If a saucer's going to pick you up, you can call me Jackie.
Who knows? We may be sitting in the same pair of seats on this giant mother ship, which is going to take us to the island of Sao Francisco in Brazil. Did you expect...
Well, I understand that island is owned by a couple of guys that have a great deal of money.
That has been said, although I don't think so. Now, Dr. Bernard is supposed to own the island.
Who is that? What kind of a doctor is he?
Well, it's another doctor. I don't know exactly what it's a doctorate of. Maybe it's another kind of doctorate, as Long John suggested. But I have done a little research, Jackie, since I spoke so. Now, Dr. Bernard is supposed to own the island.
Who is that? What kind of a doctor is he?
Well, it's another doctor. I don't know exactly what it's a doctorate of. Maybe it's another kind of doctorate, as Long John suggested. But I have done a little research, Jackie, since I spoke on the Long John show a few days ago. I dug out the files on Dr. Bernard, And I find out that previously, about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, he was operating under a different name, something like Sigmeister. I'm not sure that's the correct name, and at that time he was encouraging settlers to come down there and to possibly purchase land and to start a settlement, presumably which would be safe from atomic bombs. I had a couple of letters, and that's all, and that's about all the background I have on Dr.
Now, doesn't that sound wild to you?
It does.
A man who invites you to an island because it's safe from atomic warfare.
Well, now,
Isn't that ridiculous?
If I were a scientist, maybe I could
Even if it were a scientist, we know that there's no such a thing as an island that's immune to atomic warfare.
He didn't say that exactly. Saying was that somehow because the winds that come up from the South Pole, in case of fallout, perhaps the island would be safer. Maybe it would be not entirely
Well, I think that island's going to be very safe as long as he's on it. Because I don't think anyone will be killed on that island, because I don't think anybody will show up on it.
Fellas, can I just interrupt a moment because I've got to identify the station, and then I would appreciate if you fellas would like to talk for a few more minutes. This is WOR Radio, your station in New York, 710 on the dial.
Great.
Hold it a minute, fellas, please. 1 minute till I tell you.
Yeah.
All right, let me just remind our listeners again that Jackie Gleason is talking from his home, and a gentleman by the name of Gray Barker, the man that wrote the book They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers, is talking from his home in Clarksburg, West Virginia. My name is Long John. I'm talking from the 24th floor of 1440 Broadway. Gentlemen, continue your conversation, please.
John, you are taking my part quite often enough.
I'm not taking any part.
Well, you take my part.
Will you talk a little louder, please,
Yes, I
Gray?
will. Yes, I'll speak up.
All right. What do you want me to do now, Gray?
If I get in trouble, just take my part.
In trouble?
Well, yeah, if they get too rough on me here.
No, I don't mean to be rough on you, Gray. I know that you're in the book publishing business, and I know that provocative books make money. And I'm in a business, too, where my performance is provocative. I make money.
Yeah.
And I theatricalize several things that I do to make my performance enhanced. And some of the things I do are theatrical. So I can understand someone who publishes books making those things theatrical and the presentation of books theatrical. But I would love to speak to Howard Demenger and ask him, doesn't he feel terrible married to a woman that went with another guy from Mars? Hello, Gray. Gray, are you there?
Hey, I'm Captain Captain. I'm sorry, you've been cut off.
Where did we lose it? In Clarksburg, West Virginia? Operator.
Yes, just a moment.
All right, while you're getting that back again.
Mars, John. See what they're doing?
That's right. Those are the
Mystic Robert.
Just a moment.
All right, we're waiting,
All
operator.
right, now what else did you want?
Well, we want you to get back the gentleman that we're talking to in
All right.
Clarksburg, West Virginia.
Yeah, didn't you say something else?
No, I'm just talking to Jackie Gleason. I'm on the air right now, operator.
All right, just a moment.
And I can't have dead air. Jackie, this is a great gimmick, isn't it?
Oh, beautiful.
Of course, this means that we can't ever have you join us, you see. You'll do it this way, the easy
this
way.
is great. You know, you should do this conference bit all the time.
I'm going to try it again sometime. I think this
Got to get Otis T. Carr on. And Adamski.
See, that's an idea. I wonder if we could tie in four
They could get a conference call while they're up there. Which would be nice, you know.
That's a great jam. Incidentally, on this new TV show that I'm going to do on February 17th, which is a Wednesday night on Channel 9 at 10 o'clock. I'm doing a commercial too, Jackie, as you know.
Yeah.
I'm going to be interviewing Norman E. Colton, sales engineer for Otis T. Carr.
Oh, yeah. He's the one that handled the funds.
That's right. I know
Also?
Hello? Hello?
Hello there, John.
Are we back in business?
Yes, I'm on Planet Sleep.
Good.
Are we back on, John?
Yes, now, just, you'll have to You'll have to talk a little louder, Gray.
All right, John.
All right. Now, what is your complaint? You claim that I am not defending you?
Well, my complaint now is that every time I get on your show,
Yes.
practically every time, I'm cut off. And I'm beginning to believe in this silence group that Major Kehoe talks about. When we get an interesting conversation on, somebody pulls the switch and we're off.
I tried to explain to him, John, that it was the magic barber and his clippers that does this. He keeps running around clipping the phone wires.
He's the mystic consolided.
He's on my side.
All right. So, fellas, look, I know that all
One
of
of the questions I wanted to ask, John,
You go ahead, Jack, please.
was, I wonder what it does to Howard Menger's ego to realize that he is married to a woman who was married to a Superman before he married her.
Well, Marla Baxter is her pen name. That's her pen name. She doesn't claim to be a woman from another planet.
No, that she was in love with a Saturnian man, so she said.
Well, that was Howard Menger in another incarnation on
It
planet
was?
Venus.
Beat
Yes.
that, Jackie. Fight that.
We have to understand these
Is it
things.
strange that a man with such a background ends up on this earth painting signs on oilcloth?
Well, apparently, if we can believe his narrative, his job is to tell us, you and I and everyone else, the story of the space people, and it just happened to be a common man that they picked. After all, the story goes that the space people have contacted, now I don't go along with this, the story goes they have contacted very important people.
Well, now, Gray, look at it this way. Why would a space person contact anyone? So let's not say Howard Menger or Dad Steele. Why would a space person contact any human being on Earth? What would you think would be their reason for it?
According to the people who claim to be contacted, the space people have a message for us.
Well, what is the message?
Basically, it's a pretty well-defined line.
Now,
Jackie.
is this message important to us?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, do the space people think that this message is important?
Evidently they do, or they
Now,
don't think
then they want us to believe it, don't they?
What?
They want us to believe it, don't
Yes.
they?
Yes,
Well,
they
then
do.
why don't they leave a little evidence along with this message so that we would believe it?
That's one of the things that has puzzled me, although some of these contactees say that they want this information to come out slowly, that if they told everybody and if everybody believed it immediately, that people might get frightened about it.
Why? I thought it was a message of love.
Well, people just aren't ready for that. Remember,
For love?
the classic explanation, the worst of the world.
They must be ready for love. If Menger married a girl who was married to a Saturnian, they must be ready for love.
Well, I'm sure that everybody's ready for love, but the fact that there might be space people is, to some people, a terrifying concept. A lot of people
Well,
aren't
it
ready
was
to
just
believe
as
in
terrifying. It was just as terrifying when Christ was crucified. But there was some reason for him to do that, and he told us what the message was, and he gave a perfect demonstration of behavior for people to follow. Now, if these space people think that they have an important message, and they want to get it to the people, I can't understand why they wouldn't provide some evidence so that we would believe that the message was legitimate. Instead of contacting a man who was a criminal, or who was arrested a few times, whether wrongly or rightly, I don't know, the fellow in the West who saw the flying saucer on the desert and walked in and they spoke to him in high German.
Reinhold
Yes.
Reinhold Schmidt is the man's
He
name.
was in the clink a couple of times. Now, Howard Menger, who's over there mixing some paints and painting a sign nice in the yard, and they're sending down little colored discs that carry messages to them. Now, if they're going to contact these people to get a message across, they sure are picking some poor disciples. Christ, at least, had to find it. He had, St. Peter and Thomas, St. Paul, and a pretty intelligent man working for him.
Well, now, I'm not very
Now,
religious.
well, I'm not talking about religion. I'm just talking about the prospect of getting education. For instance, you were a school teacher. Now, they wouldn't let you be a school teacher if you didn't have some education, you didn't have some authority to to impart your instruction. Now, why do you think they pick a sign painter and a guy that's been in the clink a couple of times to impart this very important information to the world? Why don't they step down and pick up a guy like, Stevenson? Governor Stevenson, who's a nice fella, speaks nice English.
I have heard it said that the space people have contacted very important people, including leading politicians, astronomers, and so on, but they haven't listened to them. And I'd like to remind you that...
you mean to tell me, Gray, that you really believe that if Stevenson was contacted by a flying saucer, and he knew it was a flying saucer, and he knew these were legitimate people, that he wouldn't run out in the street immediately and shout this information?
I don't believe he would. I think he would be afraid that, first of all, people wouldn't believe him.
Well, why wouldn't they believe him?
He hadn't seen what he thought he had seen.
Well, all the flying saucer people, don't you think they have this intelligence?
I would be pretty hesitant about running out in the street.
Don't you think that they know that people would be ridiculed if they ran out describing the flying saucer doctrine? Don't you think that they would be very careful to give whoever they were imparting this information with some evidence that these people did give this information to them so that they wouldn't be ridiculed?
Howard Menger does have some evidence.
What
Which
evidence?
I have printed in the book.
What evidence?
To you in the form of pictures.
Well, the pictures are nothing.
A photographic expert should be able to tell something about it.
No, they can't. Not with photography today. That's a fallacy.
Fellas, may I just get in here a moment? This is Long John again. Now, we're going to try something more. Actually,
icon?
no, our friend Frank Edwards, the news commentator, he's sitting here and he's dying. You know, he wants to get in.
Hop in here.
Now, fellas, do me a favor. Jackie, you've been in
I'm
this
not picking
business.
up the tab for this, John. I don't care what you say.
I'm not going to con you for that. No, you've been in this business for years, and you know how difficult it is if people overlap. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to rely on the three of you to use judgment, try to make your points, and give the other fellow the opportunity of talking.
All right,
So I'll
get
step
off
out of
there.
this and listen. All right? Just a moment, Jackie. I'd like to ask...
Hello?
I want to ask, this is Frank Edwards in the studios here at WOR.
I've been listening to this conversation, and I'd like to ask Mr. Barker a question. You said there a minute ago, Mr. Barker, that if Stevenson was contacted by a flying saucer and ran out and shouted it to the world, he wouldn't do that because people might not believe him. Is that right?
Oh, that was the premise I believe I said.
Well, let me ask you another question in connection with that. Why would they believe Menger if they wouldn't believe Stevenson?
Well, a great many people haven't believed Menger, including Jackie Gleason, I believe, and it invites ridicule when you say anything.
Are we talking about Adlai Stevenson?
That's what?
Well, I think that he's fully as credible a witness as Howard Menger, although there may be some lack of ability on his part to paint signs.
I think he's even more credible, Frank,
Well,
because
that's possible.
his wife was never married to a attorney.
Well, I got another question. We've been talking here about why the people in the saucers, if they are in there, why they would contact such people as Menger and Adamski, a former hamburger cook, and people like that. Don't forget that the Air Force admits in a letter to NICAP signed by General Twining, the Air Force admits that they tried and failed to contact the UFOs, and they tried repeatedly. And it simply baffles me to think that the Air Force, that the saucer people, if they're so smart, would pass up this top-level contact, a former hamburger cook and people like that. Don't forget that the Air Force admits in a letter to NICAP signed by General Twining, the Air Force admits that they tried and failed to contact the UFOs, and they tried repeatedly. And it simply baffles me to think that the Air Force, that the saucer people, if they're so smart, would pass up this top-level contact and go pick on such people as Menger and Adamski and Angelucci and those birds.
I think the Air Force tried to contact the saucers, mainly, if I understand it correctly, with bullets they've shot at them.
I beg your pardon.
Saucer man.
I beg your pardon. They have tried with radio and radar and lights, and on a few occasions they have issued the shoot 'em down orders. And as you know, on on July 19th and 20th of '52, they rescinded the order shortly after they issued it. They have made a long program of trying to contact them by every conceivable peaceful means, and they got no response.
Frank?
Yes, sir.
And Gray?
Yes.
When either of you fellas want to sell an idea, do you pick out a neighbor and send him to the source that you want to impress?
No.
You go yourself, don't you?
That's right.
Well, what's wrong with a flying saucer landing and a little guy hopping out and saying, folks, here it is. This is what we want you to know.
I think that would be the logical way for them to do it if they really wanted to have
All you have to do is land on a baseball field in Central Park, and there'll be plenty of people there, newsreels in 5 minutes. Everybody will know whatever this important message is.
Well,
and we won't have to have mediums who fall into trances. We won't have to have sign painters, ex-guys that were in jail, hamburger chefs, and all of those people bringing us this important message.
Maybe the space people have a different psychological outlook than ours. Maybe they have a different way of looking at things, and maybe they don't just know how to approach us.
Are you going to tell me, Gray, that a sign painter, a hamburger chef, are going to get the attention of the world rather than an intelligent man? Why don't they go to Winston Churchill? I'm sure anyone, if he ran out in the street and said he saw a flying saucer, I'm sure they wouldn't question him.
I think that if any leading figure would run out on the street shouting flying saucers, that would certainly be the end of his political career. And I think that that's one reason why the congressional investigations haven't been made.
Well, Ray, I have to agree with Frank. I can't understand why you believe that men whose integrity is unquestioned will be not considered truthful about such a subject, and a sign painter or a hamburger chef will.
Well, of course, not everyone has believed Howard Menger or George Adamski, and we don't know.
I believe that's the understatement of the year.
Winston Churchill.
Ray, let me ask you a question. Do you believe Howard Menger?
I believe that Howard Menger has had some unusual experiences, not necessarily all.
In or out of institution.
He's had unusual experiences. There's no doubt about that. But I'm talking about, do you believe that he's ever seen a flying saucer?
Yes,
actually.
I believe that he's had some of these experiences.
Now, I don't mean experiences. I mean, do you think I know he might have had hallucinatory experiences or psychotic experiences, but do you believe he actually saw a flying saucer and that when he was 9 or 10 years old, a beautiful blonde dame hopped out of one of those things and said, hello, Charlie, to him?
Well,
you really believe this?
I have a theory about all the contactees, including Howard.
Just tell me about Howard Menger.
Well,
do you really believe that?
Let's say Howard Menger. Let's say that I believe that he has had some experience, either real or either psychic or some sort of way.
What you're saying is you believe that he was out in the yard.
And that he has, if they were psychic, that he has believed those have been real.
And well, anybody can have that, but you mean to tell me on that opinion of Howard Menger you published this book?
Well, the book is, I don't know if you've read it, but I think it's very interesting.
I know, that question's unfair because it's your business.
I got copies, Jackie, and that is why I published the book, because you can't publish a book unless people are interested in that sort of thing.
That's right. That's an unfair question, what I asked.
Gray, this is Frank Edwards again. You sent me that letter inviting me to go with you on that trip. It was on January 29th.
Yes, I merely forwarded that letter. That letter was from Otmar Cobb, not from me.
What, wasn't from you?
No, I forwarded it at his...
Well, I was dumbfounded when I got it. Particularly in view of the thing. And I think after hearing you describe those men tonight and where they live and so forth, I believe I know, I believe I can identify that doctor for you on the island down there. I think he's a veterinary who is taking care of a bunch of loons.
Well, I know that I mentioned a while ago that he had sent literature up here about a year ago inviting people to settle there and presumably purchase land. And I do know this, too, that Dr. Marlowe, I don't believe I mentioned this before, Dr. Marlowe is not the real name. That's an assumed name, and he did use that while he was on the stage, Frank. He was a magician, I understand that. And that might be one reason why, that might prejudice one's belief in this latest undertaking.
Is there any money involved in this thing, to your knowledge?
Not that I know of, Frank. Now, I watch that very carefully because I'm always on the lookout to see why people do such things. One of my friends and correspondents did write me asking me to forward a letter to Dr. Marlowe, offering him $1,000 if he could go along. But I refused to forward that letter because I thought that was wrong to do. I've never brought you up to date on the outcome of that trip. You know it was canceled, don't you?
No, I expected it to be, but I didn't know that it was.
Now, when I was on the Long John show last, I think John asked me when the trip was, and I couldn't say because he had asked me to, and I wanted to go along with it. But that was the 29th of January.
Yeah.
And on Wednesday, I believe, I called up Otmar Cobb, who's the secretary of Dr. Marlowe, and I asked him how things were coming. He said, well, I better give you the bad news now. The trip is called off. And he gave me a very fantastic story.
That was the second one.
Very briefly as to what happened. A certain Mr. Z, who later he said was a Mr. Zuko, had come to see Dr. Marlowe, had threatened him. Apparently he was an agent of some sort. And he said, Dr. Marlowe, if you don't ask the space people to call off this trip, we're going to call you up before the Secret Saucer Committee, and, things will be bad for you. Dr. Marlowe said, well, are you going to try to railroad me with some sort of a mental health thing? And Mr. Z said, no, we have other means. And hinted dark.
Well, maybe the head of the institution wouldn't let the Secret Saucer Committee meet that day.
But anyhow,
I think that the straitjacket prevented the pilot from operating the controls. That was one of the difficulties.
Somebody had a monopoly on the straitjacket.
I've got to hang up in a minute. I just want to say this, Greg. A fellow like you should take a good look at himself. You have a great deal of prominence from the books that you've published. You have quite a name in the literary world. People place a great deal of faith in what you say. And I think you should inspect your, not integrity, but your choice of material, because you have a great deal of influence in your writing.
Well,
You should be very, very careful about that. I don't think that you should send out circular letters of a particular letter that you got relating such a weird and such a fantastic proposition as a sausage stopping off several places and picking up a lot of people and taking them down to an island where some poor souls are down there who say that this island will be immune to atomic warfare. Your intelligence must tell you that this is fantastic and just a lot of junk. And if you repeat it and you propagate it, you're just being a confederate of these idiots. And I'm sure that your education, your integrity, your honesty, and your very niceness should tell you not to have anything to do with such kind of literature or the propagation of such falsity. It's just fantastic, and I think that if you continue to do it, Trey, you're going to destroy your eminence.
Well, I would like to say this. As long as I put out a publication about saucers, I'm going to try to be, I can't be a really good one, but I'm going to try to at least be a fair one. I'm going to publish what comes in. I'm going to say that I don't necessarily believe it. But I'm not going to leave out anything because it may be fantastic or because I don't believe it or because one other person or major key...
Well, then what service does your publication serve then?
I don't know. I've never held great service, more than to pass on what information I receive here. And I'm going to continue to publish what comes in, no matter how fantastic it is, because what could be more fantastic than the
to do other than publishing? You sent these letters to people. This isn't any publishing deal. This is something that you made a profit from. You sent this on to people.
Well, I sent these letters of invitation to people who Mr. Todd didn't have their address.
Why are you afraid that people would not?
Well, people have thought that for a long time, and I think myself maybe that I am, but I'm very harmless one, you know.
And you know, I like a very nice one too, Frank.
Well, thank you.
And honestly, I think you should consider the integrity element in such propagation of information at that time.
Well, now, when I started in the saucer publishing deal, no one knew about me. No one had ever heard my name. And now they have.
Well, that's another thing.
And if by going ahead and publishing everything that comes in, people stop reading, I certainly shan't be any worse off than I was before.
Well, I think you have just explained your motive.
To get up early, Jackie.
Yeah, I have to go, John.
And I appreciate it very much that...
I would just like to say good night to Grave, and it's been a pleasure speaking to him, and I think he's a very nice guy, but I think he's quite gullible or a very good businessman, one or the other.
Jackie, thank you very much.
Okay, John.
Good night.
Good night, Jackie.
Gray Barker.
Good night, Frank.
All right. Good night, fellas.
John.
Good night, Gray, and thank you very much for talking with us.
Thank you, John.
We'll be talking with you again.
Good.
Good night, everybody.